Well, I learned from a friend that showed me why. Instead of asking why, start asking why not. Time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're lying in the sun. Bit by bit, the older that we get, the faster it tick, 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 ticks. Time flies. Whoa, whoa, time flies.
Hey, good afternoon. Lyndall here again with Marshfield Old School Times. It's December the 14th. We got about 10 days or so till Christmas, 11. We're honored today to have a couple of very special guests with us today. And like I mentioned this on my Facebook invitation yesterday, that probably the most requested person that I've had people ask me, why don't you get Rosie on, is here. So we're honored to have Rose Marie, otherwise known as Rosie Fellin, with us today. Rosie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We're sure honored. And with her is her second cousin, Mary Ann Gregory.
Thank you.
A lot of people know Mary Ann. She taught here, I think it was third grade, wasn't it, Mary Ann?
Oh, Carol taught here.
Oh, Carol
I
taught.
taught in Aurora.
You taught in Aurora. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's
That's right.
all
Okay.
No
Okay.
problem. No problem.
Anyway, teacher, good career, and retired as a teacher. So I think I mentioned also that Mary Ann, you were her niece, but you're actually her second cousin. So I want to clarify that. You and Carol. Carol Stopak, her sister, many people know, and also wanted to mention her. And hopefully we invited her today, but she had some family stuff going on. So Rosie is, she went to elementary school in this building. I guess it's okay to say back in the 30s and early 40s. She graduated from St. Agnes High School, actually, in 1947. She would have went to high school here with the class of 47, but her folks decided to take her and her brother to St. Agnes to get a good Catholic education. But she's still a Marshfield native and spent the first 8 grades in this building. So we're going to kind of start at the beginning. That's what we like to do. And I thought, Rosie, maybe we might start with, you might talk a little bit about the Fellins. They're one of the earliest settlers, one of the earliest families that settled Webster County. A lot of people may not know that. And so why don't you kind of start there? I know you've done a lot of research. You've contributed stories to the Historical Society. Matter of fact, this book that we have here, the Green Manuals that were done a couple of decades ago now, I guess. You contributed a nice story about the Fellins. So why don't you kind of start there and talk a little bit about that?
Well, the Fellins came to Marshfield through Michigan. There were relatives that left Tyrol, Austria, is where they originated, and the first ones came to the United States through Michigan, through some relatives of theirs, and that's how our relatives found out about coming to the United States, because it was a good place to live. Then they got to Michigan, and some of the relatives had meandered down here, and there are several other Catholic families around here, like the Sprando family. They spell it Sperando. Well, there are Sprandos originated in Verona, and then that's where my mother met my dad, who the Fellins originated here. So that's how that we all ended up in Marshfield.
So your mother was a Sperando. Gotcha. And
that the Sperando, it's about 3 miles on the old highway, and the barn is still out there, but somebody was traveling along, a bum, and stayed all night in the house out there, and that's what happened. The house burned down.
Oh my.
That man evidently was smoking or whatever, or maybe building a fire trying to stay warm. Who knows? And that's why there's no house there, but there is still that big barn that they built. And then the Colonna family, they also were Catholics that came to this area from.
And all kind of settled out there before I-44, sort of in that same part of west of Marshfield.
Yeah, where the old highway goes around there.
Yeah.
That's where
I think that's interesting. And of course, you'd mentioned that there were Italians, basically. I
Yeah,
mean, they
they were
came originally from
Dagoes.
Austria and Italy. Um, but again, that settlement was sort of a unique settlement out there in those early days before Webster County was actually a county. When this Missouri was a state, I believe. But so anyway, I think that's interesting.
And
So,
the original house is out on Turnbull, and there's somebody. I mean, where they lived, it's still there.
still there as
Uh-huh.
well. Yeah. So your dad's name was P.O.
Mhm.
and your mother was, what was her name?
My dad would say, "My name is Pio. I was named after a pope. You know, the popes are all Pius.
Oh,
Pius, Pope Pius, such and such, and Pope Pius, such and such."
uh-huh.
So that's what he would always say. My name is Pio.
P.O.
One Pio in the United States.
Oh my. What was your mother's name?
Her name was Anna Millie. And when she married Pio,
Mhm.
well, she had to change her name because there was Aunt Mary and Aunt Anna. And so we couldn't have two Annas, one living next door to the other.
Right.
So then's when my mother started going by her middle name, which was Millie.
Millie. And you talk about Aunt Mary, and that would be Aunt Mary of Mary's
Aunt
Variety.
Mary, yes, who started Mary's Variety.
Right.
Aunt Mary was, let's see, she took care of, she was a nurse, and she took care of a man, private duty, in St. Louis
Hmm.
before she came to Marshfield
I see.
and opened up Mary's Variety.
I see.
And then Mary Ann's mother, then, and her dad took over Mary's Variety when Aunt Mary retired.
Retired.
Mhm.
And that was in
54.
1954.
Yeah.
Um,
'Cause they were in Springfield. Dad was working for Coke.
oh, was he?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yes.
Aunt Mary asked him, and they said, "Yes, we're coming."
And
Yeah.
that was interesting because every week Casey would bring me my Coke for the week.
Oh, yeah.
Coca-Cola.
Casey Gregory, of
Casey.
course, was Mary Ann's dad, and Mary was her
Her
mother.
Mary Louise.
So, so there were your dad had 12 brothers and sisters, I think you told me, right? Or there were 12 of them.
There were 12 of them.
12 of them, and a lot of them still stayed in the area, right?
Mhm.
I mean, somewhere in the
Well,
southwest.
some
Missouri.
of them left. The one, I don't know how many,
Yeah.
4, I think,
Uh-huh.
left and went to Illinois
Right.
because somebody let them know that there was work, that they could find work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how they ended up in Gillespie, Illinois,
Okay.
which is just on the other side of the river from St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been somewhere maybe the early part of the 20th century. The
Oh, yeah.
1900s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your mother and dad then lived. Where did they start then their home together?
Well, Mother met my dad
Uh-huh.
through the Sprandos
Right.
that lived out here.
Out here.
Uh-huh. And that's how they got acquainted, and that's how they got married.
Okay. Then the first house was on Mill Street. Is that?
It was on Mill Street.
Mill Street,
yes, uh-huh.
over behind the bank, and then
In fact, that's where I was born. Well, I think it's a trash place now. I mean, there's no house there.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was right behind.
behind the post office, I should
Yeah.
have said. Yeah.
I'll tell you something funny. You know, they had a buggy. I mean, that's how. So Aunt Annie was going to go up to the store to work, and so she was in the old, what do you call the buggy, coming from the house on Mill Street, and came right up that where the post office is now. Right there, she was getting ready to turn the corner right there, and Lordy, she turned too fast, and I fell out. So that's what's wrong with me.
That's why you've lived so long.
I hit my head.
Oh my goodness. So there were 3 of you. They had 3 children then. And
Yeah.
were you the youngest?
No, I'm the
The middle one?
oldest.
You're the oldest, okay.
And then Philip is the next one.
Hmm.
And then Joanne is the third one.
Gotcha.
There were 3 of us.
And
They were lucky to have 3 kids because they were both elderly, I would say. Not elderly, but they were older
for new
when they
parents.
got married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were born in 1929,
29.
and your dad, I was reading, I think your dad started the store in 1926, I believe. But you
That's
said,
why he came to work
yeah,
and was working for the exchange, and then he decided to start his own
store.
Mhm. And it was right in there, like I said, where now there's well, the service station,
Hoover Case's
Hoover
office,
Case's
Real
office.
Estate.
But right next to Hoover Case's real estate, there was a great big 3-story house.
I remember that.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, I
I
remember
was
that
there for
house.
a long
Right.
time.
And it was right in there. The store was.
Mhm.
And then
And then he came from there to the square,
came to the square on the south side.
right next to the show.
Yep.
And every Saturday night, the people would go to the show, and we would have the store open. And I can remember one lady would sit out there and watch the people go to the show. That's what she did every Saturday night.
See who was courting who.
Oh, yeah.
So I think.
Well, the men stood on the side right there, north of Mary's Variety. That wall right there. Oh, and if you weren't careful, oh, you'd get spit on. They'd stand there and chew that.
That rock wall of
oh my Lord,
Connie's
yes.
portraits.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to show you. This is a picture of the store. Of course, the building is still there. Building's in good shape, and it's right next to the Ritz.
Yeah.
I think there was an insurance office in there. Maybe
That's
the
it,
last
right
thing.
there.
So
There's
there's.
AG Grocery.
Yeah.
Oh, and we used to love to go to those Associated Grocer meetings in Springfield. They always had the best food. We always had a good supper when we went to those meetings.
There we go. There's a good shot of it.
Really good shot.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good shot right there.
So that store. Now let's think back for a minute. We're talking about 1926 through the 30s when you were a girl growing up, through the 40s when you graduated from St. Agnes and all that. So that store was very busy and prosperous, and that you wouldn't have had Young's Market out yet. There was nothing out west yet. So
no.
you had that market, you had the Hobson Market or whatever it would have been called
Yeah,
next
there was,
door.
it was Hobson.
Hobson's.
Mhm.
That's probably the only. Was
That's all.
Kendall Grocery maybe?
No. I was gonna say over on that corner, it was Kendall Grocery.
Kendall Grocery,
Yeah,
where the
there was
where the
Kendall's
hardware
over
store
there.
was.
Mhm.
So you probably had 3 grocery
And then
stores
there
on the
was
square.
Shields Pharmacy.
Shields
on
Pharmacy
the corner.
and Rathman's.
And Rathman's.
But everything was on the square.
Oh,
pretty much.
yeah.
There was nothing beyond the square. So, so they were. Your dad and mother were providing groceries for all of Marshfield, pretty much, as far as that's concerned.
Lots of people. We had lots of people that traded in our store. That they all kind of came from the same area.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Of course, you had all those good Catholics out there trading.
Oh yeah, God had a lot of those.
That's right. So then you all moved over at some point when you were growing up to you built a new house, right, over on Pine.
Right.
You remember how old you were when that was built?
Not right now, but I know
You're still home?
I know one thing that right across the street we had black people live. You don't see
Not very many
No.
today. Not
And
even
then
back then.
they were, I think, probably the only ones.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
Now
So
I see some, different.
sure. So that was Pine Street was known as City Route 66,
It
right?
was, yes.
Because
The Greyhound bus came right by our house and went right up Jefferson.
okay,
Washington is
And
in the middle, and
Jefferson,
Jefferson is in the corner.
right.
And right in there was up there on the corner there was where the bus station.
Bus station, yeah.
Mhm.
And then so Route 66, of course, 44 wasn't built yet. Route 66 was Hubble Drive, as we know it today. And then but the city route to come to downtown, they would turn on Pine, come down, go around the square, down to Jackson, and then on out and reconnect out at the Y intersection, which the Abbotts and they had a station there and a cafe and so forth. So
And we were close enough to the highway that we would have bums that would come in off of the highway.
Oh yeah.
And come up and knock at the door and wanting to know if there's something that they could do, that they could split some wood or do something to get something to eat.
Get something to eat. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So then you went to 8th grade. You came down here, went to 8th grade down here, and then your folks took you to to St. Agnes.
Uh-huh.
Tell us about that. How did you live up there and stuff?
Well, I lived in St. Agnes with my uncle and aunt, which is her grandfather and grandmother.
Mhm.
On my
Mhm.
mom's side. On
Yeah,
mom's side.
your mother's mom and dad.
And I would ride the Greyhound bus, and then at that time the Greyhound bus stopped on St. Louis Street, and I had my little suitcase that was about as big as this book, and it had my clean blouse for the second half of the week, and my little navy blue skirt
Had
that I wore
uniforms,
with
didn't
it.
you? Had
We
uniforms,
had,
didn't you?
yes,
Yeah,
we wore
yeah.
uniforms. Yeah, we wore uniforms.
So you go.
And I'd walk from the Greyhound to the Vintage House, which was then on Harrison Street. Now it's a great big dorm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
by Drury kind of in there somewhere.
No, by SMS.
Oh, by SMS.
Yeah, I
Okay.
went to SMS.
Okay.
Mhm.
Across from
Okay.
Greenwood.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
There across
Right,
from
it was
Greenwood.
close to Percy Calvary Presbyterian Church.
Is that where St. Agnes was?
No, St.
No.
Agnes was on down farther.
Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, from where First and Calvary is, you could look straight down that street, which would run straight into St. Agnes.
I see.
Uh-huh.
So you would.
And I walked down there because I played the organ at
Okay.
church,
Okay.
and the high masses were like at a certain time before
Sure.
school started.
I see.
Yeah, and so I'd walk down there so that I could get there in time to play the organ.
So you would get on the bus.
Oh, but to
and
come home, you
on-
mean from
Well,
the
like
Greyhound?
even in Marshfield, would you go on Monday morning or Sunday evening to like if you come home for the weekend?
Sunday evening.
Sunday evening.
Yeah.
Then you go back up there, and then
Uh-huh.
you'd come back home on.
And Aunt Annie drove,
Uh.
and she would pick me up out there at the Y.
Yeah.
At
When the bus station
when I
was out
got
there.
in.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
On
So
Friday
I could
evening.
get here, so I could get here, so I could work in the store.
On Saturday.
Saturday.
There you go. There you go. And then go to church again on Sunday.
And then
probably.
go to, sure, but we never missed church.
Well, that's
Oh,
interesting.
Lordy,
That's
Lordy.
interesting. So you graduated from MSU?
No, I did not.
You didn't graduate. You went-
No.
Okay. Well, tell us about that.
Well, when I was growing up, thanks to her mother and Maxine, it wasn't necessary for a woman
Sure.
to have a degree.
Sure,
I
sure.
wasn't going to teach school. You only did that if you were going to teach.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just went 2 years.
You went 2 years. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Then did you go to work after that?
Yes. Fortunately, I'm trying to think how I got connected. Some way, the lady found out that I was going to go to work, and she wanted to hire me because she knew that I would be a good worker. And that's how I got the job at the bank.
At the bank. So
Uh-huh.
you got that
It
job
was
like
then the Union National Bank, and it was on the square.
on the square. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So you only worked that one place your whole life, that one bank.
Uh-huh.
How many years was that?
I can't remember. Long time.
30,
Wow.
31, 35.
I don't remember how many years.
So,
it was.
well, if you
I worked
graduated,
until I retired.
if you graduated from high school in 47, and then 2 or 3 years later you started there around 1950,
Uh-huh.
and you retired in the early 90s,
I don't know. When did I retire?
I bet you were there 40 years then.
40, maybe 35,
Yeah.
40.
I don't know.
probably. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
And when you left there, you were the vice president, right?
well, somewhat.
Somewhat.
They didn't want women to have any kind of a title. So yes, I was.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I was the first and only one.
Well, I certainly
I
remember.
broke the ground for a lot of women.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah, my dad was in the banking business here, and of course, I certainly remember him. He knew you and talked about you. You were definitely a legend in that bank. I know that.
Yeah, I was there.
Well,
Oh,
that's interesting. So that the whole time that you worked up there, and you have a home up there in Springfield,
mhm,
you still kept the home place down here, and you still have it today,
mhm.
and you stay here a lot of the time now, right? In that house.
Well, until recently,
Yeah.
I went to all of the Lady Bears games.
Uh-huh.
And so needless to say, I didn't want to drive here. So
Sure,
I always stayed in Springfield.
Yeah.
We had Lady Bears games.
sure, sure.
But I've outgrown that now.
Yeah. Do you still own the house your aunt lived in too, or just your?
Here in
Yeah.
Marshfield, yes, I have
So
cousins
you have-
that live there.
You have two houses right on Pine, the same houses that your parents and your aunt lived in
My cousin,
nearly 100 years ago.
yeah,
right?
my cousins live there.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
You are an interesting lady, and I know you know that. Well, these stories, Rosie, are important. This history is important. It's important to keep the history alive, to keep the generations after us, where they know a little bit about Marshfield and the lives of those that really built this community and built, the culture that we have. I mean, I think it's important, and that's why we do this. So I just want you to know I'm
Well,
just
I'm
intrigued, and I'm
hap-
glad that
I'm
you're
happy
sharing.
to do it.
I'm glad you are. I'm glad
And
you
I'm
do.
glad that I
Yeah.
still have a little bit of a
You
mind
are.
that I
You-
can tell you some
You're
of the
amazing
things.
for 95 years old. I'm telling you. You guys put together a book too, you and your sister, several years ago, the Fellin Family and Business Marshfield.
Uh-huh.
So we had, obviously, you had the Fellin Grocery that we talked about,
Mhm.
Mary's
And
Variety,
That's Carol.
and then the H.E.
Yeah.
Fellin Cash Store. Many of
Right.
us remember
Uh-huh.
it. So
Uh-huh.
we're going to talk a little bit about those businesses, but this is a great book.
Isn't that?
It really
something?
is. It's
Yeah.
a nice book. I'm
Boy,
sure the Historical
I'm so
Society
glad
probably
we
has
did
this, don't
that.
they? Does the Historical Society have this book? Probably.
Mhm.
I'm sure they do.
They do.
And then, of course, as I mentioned, the green, the double edition, the double volume green Webster County history book that was done, maybe 20 years ago now, has a nice article in here as well that that Rosie did about their family. But so the grocery store, your folks ran that. You're working at the bank. He sells it in 1955, I believe I read,
Uh-huh.
and retires.
Mhm.
What happened then? I mean, I guess he enjoyed retirement and
Farm.
farmed. Okay.
Had Black Angus farm.
Bought
cattle up there.
Now he had bought that farm along the way somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Never lived there, but
some customer
uh-huh.
wanted to either died or I don't
Yeah.
remember that part.
Sure.
But wanted to sell it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so Daddy bought it because he wanted to run Black Angus.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. And so we still have the farm.
I know you do.
Mhm.
And did he raise cattle and when he was still at the grocery store and sell the meat in the store?
No.
I didn't know.
No,
if
he
okay.
didn't do
I
that.
wasn't sure.
He would buy them
Uh-huh.
as heifers or whatever.
Sure.
And then feed them
Mm-hmm.
out there.
Yeah.
Until time to sell them.
Yeah.
And then he'd call, I can't think of the guy's name that lived north, but anyway, he'd call him and he'd say, I think they're ready to go to market.
Yeah.
And he'd come and pick up all those cows up and take them to market.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that farm's out Old Seymour Road.
Turnbull. It's out on Turnbull.
No, it's
No.
out there by me.
Right.
Old Seymour Road.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah,
farm. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
I'm
that
sorry. Mhm. Yeah.
The Fellins were
Right
on
up.
Turnbow, raised on Turnbow.
When you look down, you look right at the
Yeah,
corner.
right. Then you, as you said, you lived in Springfield, worked at the bank. Your folks lived down here on Pine Street in that house that they built, and then in '54, Marianne, your
Pretty
folks
sure that's when they came because I
bought
wasn't even born yet.
Mary's
Yeah.
Variety
Mhm.
from your Aunt Mary,
Mary.
which would be P.O.'s
His
sister,
Mhm.
your aunt.
Right.
Mhm.
And
All the family.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
and of course that building joined the back side of the grocery store building, kind of, and you
Well,
guys still have that property.
I tell you what else it
Yeah,
joined was Garsh
phone company.
Phone Company.
Right. Garsh was on the south side, and then Mary's, and then the little building to the north you have today.
But then when Mary Louise and Casey bought Mary's Variety at some place in there, Marianne,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember when they opened that up and
Yeah, I don't remember the
They
exact year.
expanded-
They
expanded
expanded
it.
it to the
Yeah.
top
You don't
building.
remember.
I don't remember what year.
yeah,
I'll
but
have to look it up.
they bought the Garsh building and they opened that up.
Right. So you went into Mary's on the main level, and then you went up the stairs to the upper level, or down the stairs to
Right.
a lower level, and that would have been the phone company before they bought that and expanded Mary's.
Garsh.
The Garsh phone
Yeah.
company. Of course, they built a new building over on Jackson Street, and moved the phone company where the Mom's Cafe is now.
Right, that's
So,
right, yeah.
We'll get a picture here. Of course, everybody knows what Mary's Variety looks like,
Yeah.
but I'm going to show.
All the kids knew where Mary's Variety.
That's right. So here, this picture will be Mary's Variety with Mary Ann's dad and mom, Casey and Mary Louise, standing in front of the
Yeah, that's
of the window.
front of Mary's Variety.
And Mary Louise and Rosie are first cousins. You can see there the picture.
There's mom on the right, helping a young customer.
Yeah.
And that other picture.
And so they bought it in '54, and your mother kept the store open until, Marianne, until about 2000?
2000-ish, because Dad died in 99.
99.
And I think she just kind of liked the idea of going down. She
Yeah.
really liked seeing people.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was her prime interest in doing that. So she kept it over a few years, and then it got to where, can't do this anymore.
Right.
Well, and you know what she did? She didn't leave Casey at home
No.
with somebody else to
That's
take care of.
No.
She brought him right along with her
Is that
and
right?
parked the car right in front of the door. And he sat right there in the car while she was running Mary's Variety
Isn't that something?
and getting those kids all that candy and all that.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, isn't that great?
Just talking to people and visiting, and
Oh,
sometimes,
she loved
sometimes he'd get out, sometimes he wouldn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was just his thing. So
That
it
is
was
really
hard.
cool. That's really something.
Yeah.
Well, I just happen to have a couple of things here I want to show people. So this little display I put together is sort of a little combination of things that you might get it, that you could have gotten at Mary's Variety. Now, this is just a very small
neat.
sample.
I think that's neat.
That's
Very
neat,
small
yeah.
sample, because I do have to give a disclaimer. So when they had their sale here back a few months ago, I was able to purchase some of the store. There was still some merchandise, believe it or not, in the store, and I purchased that along with some fixtures. And so my intention is, and I plan to do this hopefully this winter, is to set up a kind of a Marshfield museum in this building in one of the rooms. I kind of started getting the room ready, but and one corner of that, or one little section, will be dedicated to Mary's Variety, and we're going to use the fixtures that we purchased, and we've got some merchandise
Isn't that neat?
just to relive those memories when most all of us that grew up in Marshfield went to Mary's Variety for our candy or whatever it might be. So I thought it'd be fun to just to give you an example. These little squeeze balls here, you can see this box, relaxable smiley balls. They've got, you know, a little heart with a smiley face, and you squeeze them.
Yeah.
This was like a brand new box, you know, still got the plastic.
Well, it's got Dad's writing, $1.59
Yeah,
on it.
$1.59 on those.
Well,
How about this? This is something you don't see anymore, but every home had these little ashtrays. 29 cents, you could buy a little ashtray and set on the kitchen table.
Cute.
I thought the lamb was appropriate this time of the year with Christmas. There's a few plush animals that purchased. $1.98 on the little lamb, but and then of course here's a badminton racket. It's got 39 cents on it right here. This little this says made in Korea on here. Little fan, you know.
Love it.
I love it.
And then of course this display is one of little display. I got a few little displays. Just an example. This was for Snappies or
They were
something.
really popular. They took the little letters and you can put them into things. And
then of course we had the jewelry department over there. We had this is birthstones. My birthday's in August, so
Mine is
Peridot. Is that Peridot or Peridot?
I don't know.
Whatever it is, Peridot. That's the stone for August. So Rosie and I, we're Peridot girl people. Anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to show you. You know, these are the kind of things that Mary's Variety sold, along with the penny candy, along with sewing,
lot of other
honestly, a lot of sewing stuff.
Yeah, zippers, elastic,
Brick brack or whatever they call that stuff.
Rick
Rick-rack.
Rick rack.
hair nets. Everybody came in every week for their hair nets. You know.
Oh yes,
hair
yes,
nets,
yes.
knickknacks.
So we'll have all that displayed when we get our little museum set up, and people can come in and relive those days.
I think that'll be neat.
Yeah, I think it will. And I put up a special Christmas display for the show today. This corrugated brick came from Mary's Variety. I have some more of that as well. I think they even might have put that in their window.
I think
They made a
so.
display
Yeah.
with a tree and
Yeah,
stuff.
I think Carol even
This
did that.
Santa Claus came from there. It has $1.29 on it. And I think the unique thing about this Santa is it's double-sided.
Double-sided.
So you can hang it from the ceiling on a fish line or whatever.
Well, you can hang it on the window and you can see it
Yeah,
on the
that's it.
outside,
That's it.
and you could see it on the
Yeah,
inside.
yeah. And then I did have to throw my stocking. That's my Christmas stocking from when I was a boy, with my name embroideries on there,
Embroidery.
and the rick rack or whatever around the edge and the bells on it. So I
Your
thought
mom-
I'd hang that
Did
up
your
to
mom do
show.
that?
I don't know if Mom. I don't know that she ever embroidered much, but she could have. But probably my grandmother,
Your grandmother.
I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so that's my my Christmas display behind us. But Mary's Variety was quite a place. You could get baseball cards. We would go in there, ride our bikes up there on to the square on Saturday afternoon, and $5 would get you a lot of stuff. $1 would get you a lot
of stuff. Yeah.
quite a bit. But
I do remember, I think about Christmas, I do remember as kids, we, because curly ribbon was really big we'd always be wrapping Christmas presents. So we'd sit there on the weekends at night, we'd have to sit in the floor, wouldn't have to, but we did, making the curly ribbons to get ready for the packages.
oh yeah,
You know
the
how you did
scissors,
that?
the
You took
scissors.
that and you took
Yeah.
those scissors and you went,
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we got them all ready, so they didn't have to do it right there on site.
oh yeah. And within your folks, especially in the early days, they would wrap the gifts in the wrap, and you have some of that
Yeah,
paper.
we have some that says Mary's Variety.
Yeah,
on it.
the wrapping paper. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
we've got a piece of that. We'll put in the frame on our display and stuff. But it's going to be fun. And gosh, those were the days. And that building's not for sale. And you own the building next to it, and you own the one on the square that's the grocery store, and they're all listed for sale. So if you're interested in buying a piece of Marshfield history, now would be a great
that's the
time.
place I think it's a perfect place because you could open up both of them.
You could, yeah,
You could go out the back door
yeah.
from
Yeah.
the square
Right.
and end up on the other
Because
side.
they actually do
And-
connect
Yeah.
back there.
Well, no,
They
but you
don't.
could
They-
make them
You could
connect.
make them connect.
The
land,
dirt
the dirt
connects.
connects. Yeah, that's yeah.
I don't know if you know Leo Colonna. He
I
was
do.
the one when Mom and Dad opened the upper part. He did all the cabinets and
Oh,
stuff
he did?
upstairs. He did that, and then of course your dad and stuff. They built the cabinet displays down below.
Right.
But yeah, Leo
Wow.
did the ones up in the upper level.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. So then the other business that we haven't talked about, we have the grocery business and the variety business, then I guess it would
Monkey
be
business.
your uncle Henry.
Oh, Henry, yeah.
Henry had H.E. Fellin Cash Store.
And Henry was Pio's first cousin.
Okay, so he was a generation. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. he
No,
would
they
be-
were first cousins.
Okay, first cousins.
Mhm.
So that one.
And where they came from on Turnbull,
Mhm.
my grandmother and our Phelan side lived out there, and then right next to them, across the road, is where the Frank Phelan, and that was
Okay,
Henry.
that was okay.
Mhm.
The Fellin Cash Store, of course, ended up Bob and Pat Abbott. Bob Abbott bought that from Henry, and then had continued to run the store.
And if you remember Henry's nephew Gene
Mhm.
Preddy,
Gene Preddy.
he worked in ran that store.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Of course, we had Pat Abbott on the show back. Gosh, she was way back in September of last year, and great, interesting show, just like this one is. I mean, great memories of Marshfield growing up, and but she ran the style shop for 50 years.
Oh, and we had to buy everything.
Oh, yeah.
Style
So here's a picture of the Fellin Cash Store, the men's store. They called it Cash Store, but it was menswear. The bottom picture shows.
Well, I think it was cash store because they didn't charge anything.
Oh,
You
yeah.
had to pay.
You had to pay, yeah. Well, that's a good point. Because your dad probably let people charge at the market, didn't they?
He did have.
Most of them did back in
My
those days.
daddy would, he would run a bill for a lot of people.
There's the Fellins, of course. That's where the sports shack is now, next to the
Right,
corner
yeah.
building, which was Shields Pharmacy. The style shop would have been to to this
the
side.
right.
To the
If
right.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
but of course it probably
Well,
wasn't there yet in
where
that
the
picture.
flower shop is now,
Hmm.
right in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Style shop.
And then the top picture, of course, shows the interior of it, of that store with all the bins with clothing, and it's kind of interesting how they used to do that. And like we talked about, they would wrap your gift, wrap your purchase with
Oh, they
paper,
wrap it for you.
put a tie on it, string, because that, you know what that comes from? That comes from the horse and buggy days. Because they had to keep their goods protected because it was open to the
Oh yeah.
elements.
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the string to tie it, and then they could tie it to the buggy, so it would.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
yeah, that's all left over from that. So, gosh, there's just so much. I thought we could go back just for just a minute and talk a little bit about Marshfield. Like, what are some of your fondest memories, like around the square? You know, Christmas time, school. Was there anything special that stuck out? Ball games?
Yeah,
or-
those guys standing on the corner chewing their tobacco. And
Yeah, talk
spitting it out
talk
there.
about that.
That was
talk
right
about
across from. Let's see, I think that was Rathman's
Rathman's drugstore.
And I just noticed a week or two ago they have refinished or put new cement
They did. They
down
report
on
that
that
sidewalk.
corner and made that nice and
It does
smooth.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, that would have been a godsend for. It would have been
That was pretty
when
rough.
Rathman was. Oh, it was terrible.
And of course,
And
even,
those men would stand right across on the corner and talk and chew that tobacco and spit it. And boy, you had to be careful. You had to
you come around the corner, you might
going
get
around
it.
that corner, you might get it.
That would have been Hobson's Market there on that.
Yeah,
side,
right on
you-
that corner.
on the corner where Connie's portraits ended up there.
And now I don't know that there's anything.
I think it's kind of vacant right now.
Mhm.
So you've got about 4 buildings that are vacant altogether.
Too
over there.
many buildings are vacant on the square.
They are, but you know
I don't understand why.
they're all right there though. I mean, most of the
I know.
rest of them are pretty well filled in, and of course your all's buildings will sell, and so there'll be something happen with them. But I have a feeling. But anything else that comes to mind that you can think about? Even your years in banking, any interesting stories? Gosh, the banking business changed over the years, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Before computers and.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can remember when the checks would come in and we would post those checks by hand on the machine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable.
And wonder how many banks there were in Springfield when you started? Not very many, was there?
Well, all I can remember is 3.
Uh-huh.
There was Union National was on the square.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Farmers and Merchants, I think, on Walnut, about Walnut and Camel.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Citizens
Mm-hmm. Citizens
on
Bank.
Commercial Street.
Right, I remember it, of course.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't Citizens
Of
State,
the
it was
bank.
Citizens. Yeah,
No, it was Citizens Bank.
right, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of changes.
Oh my. Mm-hmm. Lots of changes. Lots of changes. Mm-hmm.
Marianne, do you have any memories you want to share in this
No.
building or?
Oh wow, this brings back a lot of memories. Yeah, this was a
1973, you
73.
graduated.
This was a good place to be. It was fun.
Yeah.
I remember working in the principal's office. You know, like 7th period when Mr. Walker was principal.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed working for him and
Yeah.
Mrs. Rust and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, good building.
And
I do remember one thing about, you know, when the President Bush came to town.
Yeah.
That was interesting at the store because we had all the security.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
they had to come in. The drug dogs had to go in and go through every cabinet, up, down, the basement, and everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And you
They
remember
had never seen a variety store, you know, where you get bubble gum,
Old-fashioned like
old-fashioned
that.
candy. So
Yeah.
I think they did take some bubble gum, but anyway,
Yeah.
it was such
I
a
bet
neat.
that's fun,
It was
yeah.
But do
kind
you
of fun.
remember they came in your store
They did.
and they came in then through the back of your store
Uh-huh.
and came into the back of our store. And there is a side door
Mhm.
that they went upstairs and they had their men upstairs.
They did.
In our grocery
Yeah.
In the
store.
window.
Look out.
Oh yeah, with their guns.
The whole
Mhm.
time
The
the
whole
parade
The
was
whole
going on.
time that
Yeah.
Well, I knew
yeah.
they had those sharpshooters on top of buildings
Yeah.
around, but I didn't know they had
Oh
one
yeah,
in your
they were
building.
upstairs in
They
our
went through
building.
Uh-huh.
every cabinet. closet and everywhere. So that was very interesting.
I got some memorabilia behind you,
Oh, yeah.
Rosie, about the Bush's visit.
Hmm.
There's a picture, right here. That's the Shields building behind there.
Oh yeah.
There's some of the president and some of the dignitaries. Then,
See, what I started to say a while ago, maybe I said it, I don't know. Well, our house is on the city route.
that's right.
66.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That was the way to travel back then, wasn't it? The only way, really.
Yeah, that's the way I got to Springfield.
Marianne, we mentioned Carol, but you have a brother as well.
Yeah, I have brother Jim.
Mm-hmm.
He is a golf professional. He's an assistant right now.
Sounds like a rough life, doesn't it?
Well, he loves teaching.
Yeah.
They originally were in Manhattan, Kansas, and then they moved back to Springfield shortly after Mom fell. And then they go to Florida in the wintertime, and he works out at Millwood in the summertime.
I see.
So he still works, even though
Yeah.
he could be retired. He's
Yeah.
the type that likes to keep busy, so
Yeah.
that's just him. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And then Carol.
Carol.
your
She
other
taught
sister.
school, 3rd grade, and she loved that. So, yeah, there we go.
You were at Aurora the whole time?
I was at Aurora for 31
I
years.
don't guess I realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going for the interview and I just stayed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Rosie in the Bank.
Rosie.
Kind of like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Once we get a job, we're there.
Yeah, was there for that long, but
So do you go to Lady Bear game anymore? No.
Heck, not this year.
Not
I
this
mean,
year.
I did until this year.
Till this year. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think she used to like doing it. But I think last year kind of was
Yeah.
getting to the point that
I tell you what I really enjoyed was the people that I sat with.
Oh.
Yeah. They lived over kind of close to Central School.
Uh-huh.
They were just really, there were about 6 of them, of these black people. And they were so much fun. We had the best time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had me come over to their house. And
Yeah.
Go over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like one big family. Mm-hmm.
Lyndall, I might add, I think Mom and Dad really appreciated everybody that came in the store. So many people have came in and said stories or told us that just meant a lot to them.
Yeah.
And then also, Beatrice Willis, helped
Yeah.
out for a long
Yeah.
time, and she was really good.
She was.
But they really, I just want to thank the people for supporting them and
Absolutely.
they
Well,
love
I
people.
think
They really did.
Beatrice is a cousin.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
She was a cousin.
And so it was nice.
What was her maiden name?
It was nice. Willis.
No, her maiden name.
Her maiden name
was, she was a sister to Dorothy Colonna.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of her name.
Okay.
That's not right.
Krier. K-R-I-E. Right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
K-R-I-E-R.
I don't know.
Krier.
Krier.
Okay. Yeah.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
She
glad
was
I
there.
came.
She was there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mhm. Well, now see, it's her daughter
Mm-hmm.
that is in my aunt's house right next door.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it Kathy?
You've
or a
heard of that,
different-
all the family.
Kathy or
Barbara.
Barbara. Okay.
Barbara.
I went to school with Kathy.
Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, she's still around.
Yeah. Yeah. She is.
She comes over once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, comes over.
Your
to visit
Mary's
Barbara.
Variety was just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a bit of, it's just it was just a cultural
Mm-hmm.
phenomenon or something. It's
Yeah.
like there were just, I mean, even though there were other stores and businesses in Marshfield
Mm-hmm.
that we grew up with, it stood in a league of its own.
Mhm.
I think maybe it was because it was so appealing to children.
To kids.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe if you ask a senior citizen, they might not feel that way about it.
Mhm.
But because it's probably because it was part of our growing up.
Growing up. I had one person tell me that she felt she loved it because she felt safe there.
Yeah,
She also felt safe, like she liked going over to Jarrett's,
yeah,
because it was kind of a nice environment.
right.
So,
And Mrs. Jarrett
and
was
Mrs.
just,
Jarrett was good too.
yeah, they were just
I think
nice,
my
and they
dad
helped you, and
loved
they
it.
knew your shirt size,
Yeah,
and
they
they would,
knew everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think Dad really liked kids, and B did.
Right.
And when Mom came in, she liked kids too, and like
Right.
talking to people. So yeah, I think you're right. It was a culture, something. you
And your
don't see.
dad always ran the duck pond
The duck
at
pond
the fair.
Oh yeah, he was the
And
duck pond man.
because he, again, people associated, kids did, with
Mm-hmm.
this is the guy that sells the candy, and
Candy.
now he's got the duck pond, and
The duck
everybody,
pond. Help the
and
Lions Club out.
yeah, and these kind of things were what you get in the
Yeah,
duck
the
pond.
duck
You know,
pond.
oh yeah, you want one of these, or
You'd order it.
you probably don't
yeah.
want an. There'll probably be ashtrays there, but
Might be. Yeah, that was neat.
it was. Again, it was part of that cultural
Yeah.
phenomenon that we all had growing up in a town like Marshfield.
Yeah. We were really
And
lucky.
you know, who did your dad sell Fellin grocery to? Do you remember?
Do I what?
Who did your dad sell the Fellin grocery to?
Yeah, I remember. They lived right across the street from us, our house now.
Uh-huh.
He would, I can't.
But they kept it as a grocery store for a while?
Yes.
Because I can barely remember, but I do remember as a kid it was still.
He worked for Kendall.
Okay.
Grocery.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dodson.
I couldn't say it. Yeah.
Because
Dodson. His last name was Dodson, and I can't think of his first name. But it's sad. I have something that I've been doing just for fun. I have a list of the empty houses in Marshfield.
Really?
Can you imagine how many are on that list?
Today?
Right today. 125 empty houses.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
I thought Marshfield or what
And
the place
I
to
would
get it.
love to know who in the world the slum landlord is. There's got to be somebody has to own those. And Dodson's house is one of the houses that looks like it's going to fall in. It's right down the street from ours, and just sitting there.
It's on Pine?
Yeah, on Pine. Have no idea who owns it or anything. Nice small houses that these, one lady lives in.
Yeah.
About 4 of them right along
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
On our side of the street. And then on that side, that Dodson's house is sitting there.
That's interesting. I would have never thought there were that many vacant.
Well, there are.
Yeah. Because Marshfield's hurting for housing.
And I would really, yes. And the thing I think is interesting is we're building a whole new subdivision out here on a hill.
Right. Right.
And yet we've got empty houses. But you got to think about the difference in the people that are going to live in those houses.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, what are they going to do with all these old houses?
Right.
Are they just going to let them sit there and rot?
Well,
are they going to tear them down, or what?
Eventually, they'll be tore down if they don't keep them up. I mean, there are a lot of lots.
I'd love to know who owns
over the years in my lifetime that I've seen where there were houses that were eventually tore down and then something replaced. Like I bought one over by Penny Pincher. I had the lot I bought the lot next in and built a nice new duplex there. And we turned an eyesore into something two nice people live in that duplex, and it's generating income.
Well, I think that's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think we've got a lot of when you get off the highway and you go on that along the north there. Mm-hmm. Well, there's duplexes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going up there.
Over on Banning Street.
Yeah.
It's a change in town, and
I
think the population when I graduated was around 3,000 in 1977, and they say now it's about 8,000. So that's in 45 years, but still.
But what else has happened is instead of those 8,000 people doing their business at Mary's Variety or Fellin's Agent Grocery, no, they go to Springfield.
Or go online.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that online business is just, it's a phenomenon that I don't understand.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Absolutely.
That's just the way it is. I mean, I don't think you're going to change
You're
it.
right.
That's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
Right. You're not going to change those kinds of things.
I guess the only thing that's not going to change, I don't think they'll tear the courthouse down.
No. No, we got a jail and another building there now to keep up with all the crime.
They built a jail.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want them running around up there on the top.
Yeah. Well, that jail up there was built for 12, and they had expanded it to about 35, and the new jail holds like 110, and it's full. So that tells you something.
Is it really?
Oh my God.
Oh Lordy, Lordy.
Yeah, I mean, now they do house prisoners from other counties because they have the room, but it's still people that are out here that have to be incapacitated. So
Wow.
Crazy.
incarcerated. I said that wrong.
And that's
Catch me, school teacher.
and what's wonderful is they're just down the road from my house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess I could go over and have coffee with them.
You could. You don't drink coffee.
You might teach them something.
I could.
Right. For sure.
Anyway, well, listen, it's this has been such a treat, such an honor. Gosh, it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
fun to
well, I'm
reminisce.
glad to do it.
I know you are. It's fun to reminisce and.
See, you caught me before I'm too old. I can still remember.
That's the quote of the day, right there. That's the quote of the day. I totally agree, and that's why we're doing this, because we've missed a lot of people with a lot of stories that we can
Remember, Louise and I are from
good stock.
Yeah, we are.
Mhm. For sure.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. If there's any last words, well, you're welcome to share some more. Marianne, it's nice of you to mention your folks, and
Yeah. Thank you.
I know that those were just good people. That generation, they were just good people.
Yeah,
They
good people.
were the greatest generation.
You know, it really is interesting though how close our families
Are.
Yeah.
Are.
Not every family enjoys that.
Oh no.
I've been fortunate there too. You know, with the Frakers and the Roasts, we've been very blessed. So
Yeah. We're
take
all
it
very
for
lucky.
granted sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure do. But
Anyway, this was nice of you to do.
well, I appreciate it, and I got something we got to finish up with. So, along with some of my other stuff that I got from Mary's Variety,
Oh my Lord! Look
I
here.
got these.
Oh my gosh.
I got these face masks. So you're gonna hold the face mask up. We're gonna get this on the camera.
Oh my gosh.
So we've got a
How
pirate.
cool.
We've got it looks like a kung fu fighter here,
And
an astronaut, and I think that's a puppy dog.
puppy dog.
So these are the kind of things that you could buy at Mary's Variety. Now I promise you, this one right here is old.
Oh, that's old.
You can tell it's old.
That's older than these are.
And this one's old.
Yes.
I mean,
Those are older than these.
Oh, I think so. Yes.
so let's all put our mask on.
Okay.
Let's look at the camera.
Okay.
So
Woo.
this is in honor of Mary's
All
Variety.
right. Oh, how nice.
Oh,
If you want to know what it looked like going to Halloween, trick or treating in the 50s and 60s and 70s, this is what it looked like.
How cute! Trick or treat! Oh, how neat!
Oh, that's great. Thank you for
Oh,
that.
oh
Thank
my
you for that.
gosh. Thank you.
That'll be in the cloud forever.
Oh my gosh! How
But
neat!
thank you very much. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you,
And
you
will you
too.
come back again sometime?
Yeah.
We may have a reunion show, and I may get you and Pat Abbott and
That's
Tom
okay, we
Tom
can.
Farr and
Oh,
Dr.
yeah.
Dr. Todd, Don Rose,
You know,
DeLeona.
Tom Farr and I were in
I know.
second grade, I think.
You were Tom Farr and my dad and Noel Thomas, Colleen Meyer. You were all in that same class. So
Pretty good.
yeah, pretty
And
neat.
we can
Neat
still
reunion
remember.
show.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun to have them.
Well, thank you all for joining us again today. It's been a real treat. We will have some guests. We do have some guests lined up for next Saturday, which will be the 21st of December. And we've got something else that we may have for you coming up that'll be a little special for the Christmas season. So stay tuned to our show. Subscribe if you haven't. It doesn't cost you anything, and we appreciate the support, and we will be able to compile this historically someday, and it'll always be out there on the cloud, but for the future generations. So appreciate you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's pretty good that this is keeping him off the street.
Gosh.
That's the second quote of the day.
Oh, that's funny. Is that on? Was it still running?
Oh yeah, that's okay.